I still remember the exact sound of the doorknob turning. It wasn't loud, just that soft metallic click that normally wouldn't mean anything. But that night, it felt like a gunshot in my chest. I was standing in my bedroom, half-dressed, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The lamp on my nightstand was the only light on, casting this dim yellow glow across everything. My unmade bed, clothes scattered on the floor, and her. Emily. She was frozen, sitting on the edge of my bed, her hands gripping the sheets like she was trying to hold on to something real before it all slipped away. Her hair was messy, her breathing uneven, and her eyes locked onto mine with a mix of panic and disbelief. Neither of us moved. And then the door opened. My dad stood there. For a second, just 1 second, nobody said anything. Time didn't slow down. It stopped completely, like the world itself refused to move forward with what was about to happen. He didn't shout. He didn't even blink right away. He just looked, first at me, then at her, then back at me. And I swear to God, I had never seen that look on his face before. Not anger, not even shock, really. It was something heavier, something quieter, like disappointment had taken physical form and was standing right there in the doorway. "Dad," I started, but my voice cracked so bad it didn't even sound like me. Emily stood up too quickly, almost tripping over my hoodie on the floor. I should go," she said, her voice shaking. But nobody moved. My dad finally stepped inside the room, slow, deliberate. He closed the door behind him, gently. That somehow made it worse. If he had slammed it, yelled, thrown something, anything, it would have been easier to handle. But this calm, it was suffocating. "How long?" he asked. That was it. No yelling, no accusations, just 2 words. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My brain was scrambling, trying to find something, some version of reality where this didn't look as bad as it actually was. Emily looked at me like she was begging me to say something, to fix it, to undo it. I couldn't. My dad nodded slowly, like my silence had already told him everything he needed to know. Then he turned to her. "You should leave," he said, his tone flat. Not rude, not aggressive, just final. Emily grabbed her bag without looking at either of us. She walked past him fast, like if she slowed down for even a second, she might break apart completely. The front door downstairs opened, then closed. And just like that, it was just me and him. I'd never felt more like a kid in my life. He didn't sit. He didn't lean against anything. He just stood there, arms at his sides, looking at me like he was trying to figure out who I even was. "Was that the first time?" he asked. I shook my head before I even realized I was doing it. He closed his eyes for a second, exhaled through his nose, then looked back at me. Jesus, Ryan. Hearing my name like that hit harder than if he'd yelled. "It's not what you think," I said quickly, even though I knew how stupid that sounded the second it left my mouth. He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Then tell me what it is." I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out, because there wasn't anything to say that would make it better. There wasn't some misunderstanding. There wasn't context that would magically fix what he had just seen. It was exactly what it looked like, and that was the problem. "You know who she is, right?" he said. That question made my stomach drop in a way that had nothing to do with getting caught. "Yeah," I said quietly. "She's been at this house," he continued. "Sat at our dinner table. Your mom hugged her." I looked down at the floor. I couldn't meet his eyes anymore. "Your brother trusts you," he added. That one landed like a punch straight to the ribs, because that's the part that made it unforgivable. Emily wasn't just some random girl. She was my brother's girlfriend. They'd been together for almost 2 years, and I had just crossed a line you don't come back from. "I didn't plan it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It just happened." He shook his head slowly, like he couldn't even process that answer. "Things like that don't just happen, Ryan." I didn't argue. I couldn't, because he was right. It hadn't just happened. It had started weeks ago. Little things at first, conversations that lasted a little too long, eye contact that lingered just a second too much, jokes that felt more personal than they should have been. I noticed it before she did, or maybe I just admitted it to myself first. The way she laughed at things that weren't that funny, the way she'd look at me when my brother wasn't paying attention. I should have shut it down right then. I didn't. And once you let something like that exist,
It grows, quietly, slowly, until one day you're standing in your bedroom, half-dressed, and your father is looking at you like he doesn't recognize you anymore. "I need you to tell him," my dad said. I looked up, my heart jumping into my throat again. "What?" "You're going to tell your brother," he repeated, calm but firm. "Tonight." "No," I said immediately, too fast, too desperate. "Dad, please, just give me some time. I'll figure it out, I swear." "There's nothing to figure out," he said. "He deserves to hear it from you." I ran my hands through my hair, pacing now, like moving would somehow make this feel less real. "He's gonna lose it, you know he will." My brother, Jake, wasn't the kind of guy who handled betrayal quietly. He was loyal to a fault, the kind of person who'd do anything for the people he cared about, which made what I'd done even worse. My dad watched me pace for a second before speaking again. "He's going to find out one way or another," he said, "and if it's not from you, it'll be worse." I stopped moving, because deep down I knew that was true. Secrets like this don't stay buried. They rot, and eventually they surface in the worst way possible. "I can't," I said, my voice breaking now. "I can't look at him and say that." My dad's expression softened just slightly, not in a forgiving way, just human. "You should have thought about that before," he said quietly. That stung, not because it was harsh, but because it was simple, true in a way that left no room for argument. I sank down onto the edge of my bed, the same spot Emily had been sitting just minutes ago. Everything felt wrong. The room, the air, even my own skin. "What about Mom?" I asked, almost afraid of the answer. He hesitated for the first time. "I'll handle your mother," he said finally. That didn't make me feel better. Nothing could. A long silence filled the room, heavy, uncomfortable, the kind that makes you hyper-aware of every little sound, the hum of the AC, a car passing outside, my own uneven breathing. "I didn't raise you like this," he said after a while. I swallowed hard, staring at the floor. "I know," and I meant it. That was the worst part. I knew better. I wasn't some reckless teenager who didn't understand consequences. I was 26 years old enough to know exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway. "Get dressed," he said, turning toward the door. "He'll be home soon." My chest tightened instantly. "Dad." He paused, his hand on the doorknob, but he didn't turn around. "This doesn't stay in this room," he said. "You don't get to hide from it." Then he walked out. And just like that, I was alone.
I sat there for a long time, not moving, not thinking, just existing in this numb, hollow space where everything felt unreal. But the clock kept ticking. Jake would be home soon. And I knew, deep down, that when that door opened again, everything in my life was about to fall apart in a way I couldn't fix. I don't remember getting dressed. I know I did, obviously. I wasn't sitting there half naked when Jake walked in, but the actual process, pulling on a shirt, buttoning my jeans, trying to make myself look like a normal human being, it's just gone. Like my brain decided I didn't need to keep that part. What I do remember is sitting on the edge of my bed afterward, staring at the same spot on the floor where Emily had dropped her bag. I kept replaying the last few weeks in my head, like if I ran it back enough times, I could find the exact moment where I could have stopped it. It wasn't just one moment. That's the lie people tell themselves, that there's a single decision, one wrong turn. But this was 100 tiny choices, 100 times I could have stepped back and didn't. The first time it felt real was at a barbecue at my parents' place about a month ago. Jake had brought Emily over, like he always did. They were that couple, the kind everyone expected to last. Easy together, comfortable, the kind of thing you don't question. I was flipping burgers, trying to avoid conversation like I usually did at those things, when she came up next to me. "You're really quiet, you know that?" she said, leaning against the counter like she had all the time in the world. I shrugged. Someone's got to be. She smiled at that. Not a polite smile, something warmer, more intentional. "I think you just don't like people," she said. "Depends on the people." That made her laugh, and I remember noticing it, really noticing it, for the first time. Not just hearing it, but feeling it, the way it lingered a little longer than it should have. Jake called her name from across the yard, asking her to come meet one of his friends. "Coming," she shouted back, then looked at me again, just for a second too long. That was it. That was the first crack. Nothing happened that day, not physically, not even close. But something shifted. After that, it was little things. She'd text me sometimes. At first, it was innocent. asking about a show I mentioned or sending me a meme she thought I'd find funny, stuff that could easily be explained if anyone ever saw it. But then the conversations got longer, more personal. She started telling me things about Jake. Not bad things, not exactly. Just things she didn't say when he was around. Like how he didn't really listen sometimes, how he got distracted, how he assumed everything was fine instead of asking. And I listened. That's where I messed up the most, I think, because I didn't shut it down. I didn't redirect it. I didn't say, hey, maybe you should talk to him about that. I let her talk. And the more she talked, the more it felt like there was something between us, something separate from him, which is a dangerous place to be. The night it crossed the line, Jake wasn't even there. He'd gone out of town for work, some last-minute thing. Emily had come by the house earlier that day to drop something off for him. I wasn't expecting her, but I let her in. We talked for a bit in the kitchen, normal stuff at first. Work, random complaints, nothing important. Then she said she didn't feel like going back to her apartment. I hate being alone, she admitted, leaning against the counter again, arms crossed. I should have said, you should probably head out. Instead, I said, you can hang here for a bit if you want. That was the moment. That was the exact moment I opened the door. We ended up watching something on TV in the living room. I couldn't even tell you what it was. Some show neither of us was really paying attention to. At some point, she moved closer. At some point, our knees touched. At some point, neither of us moved away. You ever feel like you're in the wrong life? She asked suddenly, her voice quiet. I glanced at her. What do you mean? I don't know, she said, staring at the screen but not really watching it. Like, everything looks right on paper, but it doesn't feel right. I didn't answer right away, because I knew what she was really asking, or at least what she wanted me to say. Yeah, I said eventually. Sometimes. She turned her head and looked at me, and that look, that was the point of no return. We didn't kiss right away. It wasn't that dramatic. It was slower, more dangerous. Her hand brushed mine first, light, accidental enough to pretend it didn't mean anything, but neither of us pulled away. Then I turned toward her. She didn't move. And then, that was it. Once it happened, it didn't feel shocking. It didn't feel like this massive, life-altering mistake. It felt easy. Too easy. Like it had been building for longer than either of us wanted to admit. Afterward, she sat there in silence, her breathing uneven, staring at nothing. We shouldn't have done that, she said. I nodded, even though I didn't feel it yet. Yeah. But we didn't stop. That was the worst part. It didn't end there. It became a thing. Secret texts, stolen moments, excuses to be around each other. Every time we both knew it was wrong. Every time we told ourselves it was the last time. And every time, it wasn't. Until tonight. Until my dad walked in and turned something hidden into something real. A car door slammed outside. My entire body tensed. That was Jake. I stood up too fast, nearly knocking over the chair next to my desk. My heart started racing again, louder than before, like it was trying to escape. I walked to the window and looked out. His truck was in the driveway. The driver's side door shut as he stepped out, grabbing his bag from the back seat. He looked normal. That's what got me. He looked completely normal. No idea, no suspicion. Just Jake. Coming home after a long day, probably thinking about dinner or a shower or texting Emily to tell her he missed her. The guilt hit so hard I had to grab the edge of my desk to steady myself. I heard the front door open downstairs. Hey, he called out, his voice echoing through the house. I'm back. I couldn't move. Footsteps. The sound of his keys hitting the bowl by the door, his boots against the hardwood floor. Dad? He called. You here? A pause. Yeah, my dad answered from the kitchen. Their voices were low after that. I couldn't make out what they were saying, just the rhythm of conversation. Casual, normal. It made my chest tighten even more, because in a few minutes, that normal was going to be gone. I stepped out into the hallway, my legs feeling heavier than they should. Each step toward the stairs felt like I was walking toward something irreversible. Jake was leaning against the kitchen counter when I got there, a bottle of water in his hand. He looked up when he saw me. There he is, he said, grinning. Man, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. That smile. I almost broke right there. Yeah, I said, forcing something that barely resembled a smile. It's been a few days.
He walked over and pulled me into a quick hug, like he always did. Casual, automatic. I stood there stiff, barely able to return it. "You good?" he asked, pulling back and looking at me. "You look off." I glanced at my dad. He was standing by the sink, watching us, not saying anything.
"Waiting. I need to talk to you," I said. Jake raised an eyebrow, half smiling. "That sounds serious." "It is." Something in my tone must have landed because his expression shifted slightly. Not worried yet, but alert. "Okay," he said slowly. "What's going on?" I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. My dad didn't move, didn't help, didn't step in. This was on me. "Maybe we should sit down," I said. Jake looked between me and my dad now, the tension finally starting to register. "All right," he said. "You're kind of freaking me out." We moved into the living room. I sat on one end of the couch. Jake took the other. My dad stayed standing, leaning against the wall like some kind of silent witness. Jake leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Just tell me, man, what's going on?" I stared at the floor for a second. Then I looked up at him. And in that moment, I realized there was no version of this where it didn't destroy him, or me, or everything. "It's about Emily." The second I said her name, something changed in his face. It wasn't immediate panic, not yet, but the ease disappeared. That relaxed, familiar version of Jake, the one I'd known my entire life, tightened just a little, like his instincts were trying to warn him before his brain could catch up. "What about her?" he asked, sitting back slightly, eyes narrowing just enough to notice. I felt my throat close up. There was a version of me, weak, desperate, that still wanted to pivot, to lie, to say something safe, something that would delay the inevitable just a little longer. But I could feel my dad behind us, silent, steady, like a wall I couldn't move around. So I didn't lie. Not this time. "I messed up," I said, the words coming out uneven. "Bad." Jake let out a small breath, like he was bracing himself. "Okay, what does that mean?" I rubbed my hands together, realizing they were shaking. I pressed them into my knees to try to steady them. "I crossed a line," I said. "With her." The silence that followed felt different than before. He didn't react right away, not physically. He just stared at me, his brain trying to process something it didn't want to understand. "What line?" he asked. And there it was. The last chance to soften it. The last chance to water it down, to use vague language and hide behind technicalities. I didn't. I slept with her. The words landed heavy, solid, irreversible. Jake blinked once, twice. Then he leaned back into the couch like something had physically pushed him there. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything, didn't move, didn't even breathe, it felt like. And then he laughed. It wasn't real laughter. It was sharp, disbelieving, like his brain had rejected the reality so hard it needed to replace it with something else. "Yeah, okay," he said, shaking his head. "Real funny." "I'm not joking," I said quietly. That's when it hit him. You could see it, the exact moment the denial cracked and something much darker poured through. His face went still, completely still. "Say that again," he said. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. "I slept with Emily." This time there was no delay. He stood up so fast the coffee table rattled. "What the hell did you just say?" he snapped, his voice louder now, sharper. "I said I slept with her," I repeated, my own voice barely holding together. "Are you out of your mind?" he shouted, running a hand through his hair, pacing now. "Is this some kind of joke? What is this?" "I'm serious." "Since when?" he demanded, turning back to me, eyes wide with something between rage and disbelief. "When did this happen?" I hesitated. "That was a mistake." "How long?" he yelled, stepping closer. "How long has this been going on?" "A few weeks," I admitted. That's when everything snapped. He lunged forward and shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back into the couch, barely catching myself. "A few weeks?" he repeated, his voice rising. "A few weeks? You've been screwing my girlfriend for weeks?" "I know." "Don't," he cut me off, pointing at me like he didn't even want me speaking. "Don't say anything like you understand anything right now, because you don't." My dad stepped forward slightly. "Jake, no." Jake snapped without even looking at him. "Stay out of this." His eyes locked back onto mine, and I swear I had never seen that kind of anger in him before. It wasn't just anger. It was betrayal. Deep, personal, raw. "You," he said, his voice lower now, but somehow more dangerous. "Out of everyone, you?" I didn't have an answer for that, because he was right. Out of everyone, it should have never been me.
I trusted you, he continued, shaking his head slowly. I trusted you with everything. You're my brother. The word brother felt heavier than anything else he'd said. I know, I said, my voice breaking. I know, and you what? He cut in. You just couldn't help yourself? That's it? She was there and you just, what, slipped? No, I said quickly. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He demanded, stepping closer again. Explain it to me. I really want to hear this. I swallowed hard, trying to find words that didn't sound as pathetic as they were. It started small, I said. We were just talking, and then you decided to sleep with her, he interrupted. That's what you're saying. It wasn't planned, I said. He let out another sharp laugh, this one full of anger. You think that makes it better? No, I admitted. It doesn't. Damn right it doesn't, he snapped. He turned away from me, pacing again, faster this time. His hands were shaking now, clenching and unclenching like he didn't know what to do with them. What about her? He said suddenly, turning back. Does she think this is some kind of joke too, or is she just as messed up as you are? She didn't want to hurt you, I said, even as I knew how hollow that sounded. Jake stared at me like I had just said the stupidest thing imaginable. She didn't want to hurt me, he repeated slowly. She's been sleeping with my brother behind my back for weeks, and you're telling me she didn't want to hurt me? I didn't respond, because there was no response to that. He shook his head, looking down at the floor for a second, then back at me. You both made me look like an idiot, he said. Do you get that? Everyone probably saw it. Everyone except me. That's not true, I said quickly. No one knew. Yeah, he shot back. Well, they're about to. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means I'm calling her, he said, already reaching for his phone. Jake, wait. No, he snapped, stepping away from me. You don't get to tell me what to do right now. He scrolled through his phone, found her name, and hit call without hesitation. The room felt like it was closing in. It rang once, twice, then she picked up. Hey, her voice came through, soft, normal, completely unaware. Jake didn't ease into it. Did you sleep with my brother? He asked, his voice cold and direct. There was a pause on the other end, a long one, too long, and in that silence, everything was confirmed. Jake, she started, her voice already breaking. Don't, he cut her off. Just answer the question. Another pause, then quietly. Yes. That one word hit just as hard as when I said it. Jake closed his eyes for a second, like he needed to physically hold himself together. How long? He asked.
A few weeks, she admitted, her voice barely audible. He let out a slow breath, nodding to himself like it all made sense now in the worst possible way. Don't call me again, he said. Then he hung up. Just like that. No yelling, no drawn-out argument, just done. He stood there for a second, staring at his phone, then slowly lowered it. When he looked up at me again, something had changed. The anger was still there, but underneath it there was something worse. Detachment. You're dead to me, he said. The words were quiet, flat, final. Jake, I started, standing up, panic creeping into my voice. No, he said, stepping back like even being near me was too much. Don't say my name. Don't try to explain anything. I don't care. I'm your brother, I said, the desperation obvious now. We can, or not anything, he cut in. Not anymore. That hurt more than anything else, more than the anger, more than the yelling, that complete severing. He grabbed his keys off the table, not even looking at my dad now. I'm done, he said, and then he walked out. The front door slammed this time, loud, violent, echoing through the house like a final punctuation mark on everything that just happened. I stood there, frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been. And for the first time since all of this started, it fully hit me. There was no fixing this, no going back, no version of reality where things just healed. I didn't just lose his trust. I lost him. The sound of the door slamming didn't fade. It stayed there, ringing in my ears long after Jake's truck started, long after the engine roared to life, long after the tires scraped against the driveway and disappeared down the street. I stood there, in the living room, staring at nothing, feeling like something inside me had just been ripped out and left behind. My dad didn't say anything right away. He just watched me, and I could feel it, that shift. Not just disappointment anymore, not just frustration. It was heavier now, final in a way that made it clear something between us had changed too. You told him, he said after a while. It wasn't a question. Yeah,
I said, my voice hollow. He noted once, slow, like he had expected nothing less. But that didn't make it any easier to accept. That's what needed to happen. I let out a dry laugh that didn't sound like me at all. Doesn't feel like it helped. It wasn't supposed to help, he said. It was supposed to be honest. Honest. That word felt useless now. I dragged a hand over my face, suddenly exhausted in a way I'd never felt before. He said I'm dead to him. My dad didn't react to that the way I wanted him to. No reassurance. No, he'll calm down, or he didn't mean it. Just silence. Because we both knew. He probably did mean it. At least for now, he said eventually. But even that sounded uncertain. I nodded, even though the words didn't do anything. Where is he? I asked. Does it matter? My dad replied. I didn't answer. Because the truth was, it did matter. But I didn't have the right to ask anymore. Not after what I'd done. A few minutes passed like that. Quiet. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then my dad exhaled and walked toward the kitchen. I'm going to bed, he said. We'll deal with the rest of this tomorrow. Tomorrow. Like this was something that could be scheduled. Handled in steps. Managed. Yeah, I said, even though I knew tomorrow wasn't going to fix anything either. He stopped at the edge of the hallway and turned back, looking at me one last time. I hope you understand what you've done, he said. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood it too well. He disappeared down the hallway, and a few seconds later I heard his bedroom door close. And then I was alone. Really alone this time. The house felt different. Bigger. Emptier. Like something important had been taken out of it. I sat down on the couch slowly, staring at the same spot Jake had been sitting just minutes ago. I kept replaying it. The look on his face. The way his voice changed. You're dead to me. I never thought I'd hear that from him. Not in a million years. We weren't just brothers. We were everything growing up. Same friends, same fights, same stupid memories. He was the one who had my back when I got into trouble. The one who showed up, no matter what. And I destroyed that. For what? That question kept circling in my head, over and over again. For what? It didn't even feel like something real anymore. What I had with Emily, it felt cheap, small, compared to what it cost. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I froze for a second before pulling it out. Her name, Emily. Of course. I stared at the screen as it kept ringing, my thumb hovering over the answer button. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let it die, let everything just end the way it was already ending. But I answered. What? I said, my voice flat. Ryan. She sounded like she'd been crying. I know. He just hung up, she said, her voice shaking. He didn't yell or anything. He just ended it. Yeah, I said quietly. That's kind of what he does when he's done. There was a pause. What do we do? She asked. That question hit something in me immediately. We. I sat up a little straighter, my grip tightening on the phone. There is no we, I said. Another silence. Then, what do you mean? I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady. I mean this is over, I said. Whatever this was, it's done. Ryan, don't say that, she said quickly. We didn't mean for it to happen like this. It doesn't matter what we meant, I cut in. Look at what actually happened. I know, but... No, I said firmer now. No but. My brother just walked out of this house and told me I'm dead to him. Because of this. Because of us. Her breathing got heavier on the other end. So that's it? She asked, hurt creeping into her voice now. You're just gonna walk away? I almost laughed. Walk away? I repeated. Emily, there's nothing to walk away from. We blew it up. That's not fair, she said. You think I don't care? You think this isn't killing me too? I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know what you feel right now. Another pause. Do you regret it? She asked suddenly. That question caught me off guard. I leaned back into the couch, staring at the ceiling. Do I regret it? The answer should have been easy. Yes, I said. But it didn't feel simple. Because regret didn't erase anything. It didn't undo the choices, the moments, the decisions I made over and over again. I do, I added, quieter this time. but that doesn't change anything. She sniffed on the other end, trying to hold it together. I thought maybe there was something real there, she said. There was, I admitted, and that was the truth. That's what made it so messed up. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't just some reckless mistake. There was something there, and that made it worse. Then why are you ending it? She asked. I closed my eyes. Because some things don't matter, even if they're real, I said. Not when they cost this much. She didn't respond right away. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quieter, distant. I lost him too, she said. Yeah, you did. And you, she added. I didn't say anything, because that part was my choice. I guess this is it then, she said. Yeah. Another long silence.
Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye, Emily. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly, staring at the screen until it went dark. And just like that, it was over. Not just with her, with everything. I sat there for a long time after that, not moving, not thinking, just listening to the silence of the house. No TV, no voices, no footsteps. Just nothing. At some point, I got up and walked back to my room. The same room where this whole thing had been exposed. The same room where my dad had stood in the doorway, looking at me like he didn't know me. I looked around at everything. The bed, the floor, the lamp still casting that same dim light. Nothing had changed, but everything was different. I sat down on the edge of the bed again, in the exact same spot. And for the first time all night, there was no adrenaline left, no panic, no scrambling thoughts trying to fix things. Just this heavy, quiet understanding. Some mistakes don't come with second chances. Some lines, once crossed, don't lead anywhere except here, alone.